So let's talk about this top 20. Sometimes, you call them A's.
And it's a snapshot.
Yeah, I understand. But describe the attitude and the behavior of top people or A's in a company. What are they like?
They're filled with energy. They excite people and energize them. They're likable. They have good values. They're good people. And they have something else. Now, this is something you ought to really think about. They have a gene. And this gene says, I love to see people grow. I love to reward people. They get a kick out of giving a big fat raise. They get a kick out of giving a bonus. They get a kick out of seeing their people be promoted.
Yeah.
They have that gene. They're not mean-spirited. They're not cheap and stingy, and they don't have any of these characteristics. They celebrate their people.
Yeah, I heard you one time on an interview say they have generosity of spirit.
They do.
Yeah,
they do.
Okay, and that's a distinguishing characteristic of top people, in your view.
And who hire great people. They're not afraid to have great people around them. It's all that same spirit. And then they love, and the best people will say, I've got these two, and you'll love them. You want to take them and give them a promotion. And what the mean-spirited leader does with good people, he hides them. He come around looking for people. We don't have any. We don't have any men at all. No, you don't. I mean, this person wants to promote them, wants to see them grow.
Yeah, and what you're saying is that becomes a very attractive dynamic in those who work for them, just calls the best out of everybody.
There's another way of looking at it. They don't have a lot of envy. Envy is a terrible thing. And they don't have envy. They celebrate success of people. And then when you set your values, if you have one of your values be leaders who promote people, you'll get more of that too.
Yeah. Okay, now let's talk about the next group, which would be, B's, or the vital 70%.
Yeah.
Your philosophy is these are very important people. You're not berating that next large group of people. Talk about what a B is.
Isn't always there in the clutch, but is so smart and so good and so valuable. Might be hardworking and not as gifted as some others. The worst part of differentiating, and the one we had the most trouble with, and we did 20-70-10. Well, if you were in the 25th point, the top of the 70, the top of the 70 compared to the bottom of the 70 is a world of difference. Yeah. And the resentment that occurred there was always a problem. You run the risk of losing the 26th, the 21st percentile, the 23rd, 25th.
Because they want to be in that top group.
And you've got to work constantly and say, this is a snapshot in time. We'll have another one 6 months from now. We'll have another one 6 months again. You haven't got that indelibly inscribed in your forehead. Yeah. You will have a chance to. Here's what you have to do. Look, the thing I always believed in as a leader, and I did it all the time, is I did at least 3 times a year, sometimes 4. I'd give a piece of paper with a handwritten note. Here's what I like about what you're doing, and here's what you can do to improve. So we were always on the same page. And they might argue with me, and then, okay, we'll talk 3 months from now. And do it again. Yeah. And I'd have a modified page, or you fixed that, or you didn't. And what you got to do with appraisals and with formal appraisals also is you got to get a red pen. Don't write a new one. Write over the last one. Because you want to see, this is what I said, this is what you did, and you're not making up a new game every time.
Yeah. So, Jack, the bottom 10, what characterizes someone in that group?
Not a team player, low energy, a cynic. A cynic is a real, I want to say, pain in the arm.
Thank you.
Okay? I want to get that right. How am I doing?
So much progress in such little time.
They just negative. Nothing is worse than negative energy in an organization. Nothing is worse. The wet blanket, the person that's poo-pooing this idea. Oh, we did that last year. Yeah. Oh, we tried that.
You have a phrase in one of the books where you call them disruptors, and then you had another phrase, boss haters, and you said that these are the kinds of people who manifest that kind of behavior consistently. They disrupt, and like the wet blanket thing, or they antagonize.
That's a little different, Bill. The boss hater, the disruptor, is often somebody you got to listen to every now and then. Because the boss hater might say that, might be screaming that BP cut a corner. They might be saying something else. A boss hater is somebody that jumps out at you with a challenge, and they got guts to do it. What I'm talking about in this bottom 10, you have to tolerate these people a little bit, and you got to shape them up so they can't be all over the rest of the organization. But there's some brains there, oftentimes in boss haters, and you got to try and get the best of them. If you can't, you got to get rid of them. Yeah. But they're different than the people I'm talking about.
Okay,
the wet blanket.
That's interesting.
The wet blanket. You can't shut down the noise from somebody who's willing to be noisy.
Yeah, because it's candor. And
it's candor. You gotta respect that. It's the person that whispers over in the back. Oh, they've done this. Those jerks there. Here they come again with the same old thing. You know, it's the cynic. That's not a cynic. Is not a loudmouth disruptor. A loudmouth disruptor is going to say, "I don't like what you're doing. Yeah. Don't do it." I mean, and you got to deal with that because they're telling you something you might have to listen to.
So the hallway whisper is more dangerous in your mind?
Is deadly.
Wow. Because in church work, that's the way some people express dissatisfaction. Is they wouldn't feel like it's Christian to raise their hand and disagree, but maybe they would talk about it with fellow employees in the hall. And again, I've always felt that was not a very constructive way to operate, but I've never quite called it deadly.
You have to do everything you can to stop the meeting after the meeting. To make the meeting after the meeting an unacceptable event. I mean, you guys want to sit around and gripe about what just happened? Why didn't you talk about it there? Why didn't you bring it up there? You know, you talk about unchurch-like to speak up in a meeting. The other side of that in a corporation is I'm too nice to do that. Yeah. That's a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah. So let's go back to the differentiation idea. So you brought this into the culture. You made sure that people had frank and constructive personnel evaluations so that no one was ever surprised when they were in that lower 10%. But you actually have a whole philosophy that you compensate people differently by where they are in the 20-70-10.
Well, if you're in the top 20, you can't give them enough. You find stock options, you give them rewards, you give them big outsized raises, you do all you can to, you send them to schools if they want to, you do all kinds of things to recognize them. In church work, I'm sure you do the same thing. You recognize certain people, you don't have stock options and some of these other things. No, but you have a lot of other recognition symbols that you can give to those that excel.
It's true.
And now, the argument again, let me just spend a minute on the other side of 20-70-10. The argument that usually comes up is, who are you to tell me that I'm in the bottom 10 or middle 7? You're not smart enough. You're not quality enough. I don't disagree with that in some ways. But I can't think of a better way to build a better team. I mean, if you can come up with a better answer to getting a better team, I haven't come up with one. I'm sure there's a lot of biases in these 2070-10s. I'm sure there's a lot of unfairness. I'm sure there's people holding grudges, been waiting to get them for a long time. All those things are wrong with it. On the other hand, how else do you get an organization to know where they stand and to move forward? If there's a better way, fine. But the idea of never acknowledging performance and differences in performance is silly. Yeah. Baseball teams don't do it. Football teams don't do it. No winning teams ignore it.